With Love, Death and Robots Season 4 having just been released and us waiting almost 3 years for the 10 episodes that we were given, I was really looking forward to the individual stories and the cool art styles that were on the horizon. With 10 new installments ranging from around 5 minutes in length up until about 15 minutes, and with a new art style in every single episode, the creativity of what made this show so good when it was first released was present throughout all of it. However, the stories this time round, I don't know. They just didn't quite capture me like the previous volumes, and it felt like there was a lot of inconsistency in the quality. It just felt like most of the stories were either focused on aliens, cats wanting to reign supreme, or just pets. But with this season probably needing a ranking more so than the previous ones, I thought I'd rank every episode in Season 4 of the show from worst to best, and answer if any of the episodes hold up when compared to the seasons before. So let's get into it. Here is Love, Death and Robots Season 4 every episode ranked. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Number 10, Can't Stop. For me, the episode that comes in last place is the first episode, Can't Stop. I honestly thought it brought nothing to the series in the slightest. It was cool to watch with the incorporation of the puppets, the stylized camera movements, the transitions, and the graininess of the opening scene, making it feel very reminiscent of the 90s. But at its core, it was just a unique take on a music video and a live performance, and to be totally honest, I don't watch the show to see that. I watch the show for its interesting stories that make me question what I'm watching. This just felt like a bit of a Red Hot Chili Peppers PR stunt in 2025, so I was a bit disappointed with that. I thought maybe there was going to be a twist where everybody in the stadium ended up dying due to the strings on the puppet all being caught alive, or the fans were going to be possessed by the music. Something like that would have made it more interesting and would have given it some kind of narrative. But in its own right, as it is, just getting a Red Hot Chili Peppers music video is a big no from me. Number 9. Smart Appliances, Stupid Owners. This was an episode that, again, I was a little bit disappointed in. I thought the art style was quite cool in it, and the idea of seeing smart devices being interviewed and asked what they thought of their stupid owners was a funny concept, but I didn't find this one that engaging in the slightest. Probably again, like Can't Stop, it's because of its lack of narrative structure. The office-style approach with the devices talking to the camera was probably the most interesting thing about it, which was the entire concept of the episode, I know. But I didn't actually find what they were saying that funny. I thought this episode lacked creativity, and the humor wasn't really that intelligent. The part that I probably found most funny was when after the toilet was interviewed, it cut to the cat litter, and instead of being hysterical like the toilet, it was serious and had accepted that its life was horrific. But that was probably the only part that really made me laugh, so overall I was a bit underwhelmed. Number 8. Golgotha. Sometimes in Love, Death and Robots you get an episode where there's actual human beings in them, and this was the episode that gave us that. Following a dolphin called Blackfin rising from the dead and this alien species called the Lupo taking intrigue in it, we saw a priest on Earth meet with the Lupo species because they wanted to speak with the person that witnessed the resurrection. This episode felt like it was a commentary on humans being punished for the way that they treat marine life and the fish in the ocean. So with the Messiah delivering a message that creatures that walk and don't live in the ocean should be persecuted, with the Lupo believing that Blackfin was the Messiah, they started their crusade of wiping out all of the species on Earth that lived on land. This episode had some humor within it for sure. It did feel a little slow at points, but the bleak ending did make me laugh. What if the Messiah was a fish? It's ludicrous, but for some reason it managed to work. Number 7. The Screaming of the Tyrannosaur. When this episode started, I thought, why do I recognize that voice? And it turned out that the games master in the episode was actually Mr. Beast, something that felt quite fitting. This episode was focused around Maya, who was pitted against other warriors in the galaxy in a fight for survival for the purpose of entertainment to honor a wedding that was coming up. She referred to herself as a wolf in this episode, and a key focus of wolves is that they hunt in a pack and are stronger when they work together. This is something that Maya had a desire to have in her life, the yearning for togetherness rather than just being on her own, which was the life that she was leading in that moment. This is why we saw her thrive when she worked with the different dinosaurs that were present in the episode, and why once she teamed up with the T-Rex that was originally tasked with killing her, she ended up killing those that waved the power of authority over them. making Europa pay for the way that they treated people that were viewed as less than them. In terms of the art style, I thought the way that the characters were designed was really cool, and I also liked the look of the dinosaurs. The T-Rex looked so menacing and fearful. I'd also say the battle scenes that took place felt extremely immersive as well. Mr. Beast's voice acting was okay within it, but I think it worked better as a commentary piece for how he is this games master in real life, so it was a good way of using the story as a vessel of getting that message across too. It's not one of my favourites, and I think it's probably one that will be relatively forgettable as time goes on. Number 6. For He Can Creep. For He Can Creep was the season closer, and I thought it was an okay way for the season to conclude. This episode was based on an actual story where a cat called Joffrey fought with the devil in order to stop the poet from delivering a poem to Satan which would end the world and bring on the apocalypse. I thought this story was a strong one, and considering it was about a poem, it actually had quite a poetic ending. I liked the fact that the title of this episode was the final line of dialogue that we heard within it. In terms of the art style, I feel like this one was up there as being one of my favourites. It was set in the mid-1700s in an asylum for the mentally insane, and the art style really complemented that and was able to capture that time period really well. It was almost like an illustration that you'd find related to that time period. However, with it being blended with the transformative nature of the character Satan and the way that he'd morph into different beings, it was really nice on the eye and brought a modernity to it. My favourite character in this episode was probably Satan. The tone of voice, the desire that he had to get what he wanted, and the sheer power that he had was something that you could really feel through the screen. He was just your stereotypical villain, and it was delivered really well. This was an episode that had good structure to it, a wide array of characters that we were introduced to, and it explored the age-old theme of good versus evil, and also highlighted what loyalty can do. We saw that with the poet and his loyalty to Joffrey, the alley cats and their loyalty to Joffrey, and also Joffrey's loyalty to the poet. Number 5. Close Encounters of the Mini-Kind. This was an episode that, in my opinion, didn't take itself too seriously, and because of that, it was able to thrive. It didn't compromise the story by focusing solely on humour, but it complemented it so well. With aliens coming to Earth and the humans resorting to violence as a first resort, we saw that aliens respond with violence and ultimately battle with the humans in looking to take over the planet. As the episode went on, we saw that the humans ended up using the alien weapons and it backfiring and causing the Earth to implode and suck in the entire solar system. The art style in this was just great. Having the camera up high, enabling us to see everything that was unfolding, was the perfect choice for this episode. The sped up, high-pitched voices, because they were so far away, also added an element of comedy into this. Comedy was within it through and through, right up until the fart noise at the end of the episode. This is one of the most memorable features in this season because it stood out so much. There was just a clear structure of a story and that was enough to carry it, so I liked this one. Number 4. The Other Large Thing. This was an episode that I didn't think I'd like when I first started watching it, but by the time it concluded, I just felt like I had a fun time with it. It felt like this was a commentary on humans, the way that they treat lesser beings, and the stereotypical story of AI taking over. However, it was paired with the age-old story of cats being villains and one day taking over the world as well. So it was a combination of both of those two stories and what would happen if they were allies. Sanchez, or Dingleberry Jones should I say, was performed really well by the voice actor, and the cat embodied the stereotypical villain persona. The humans being these complete slobs was absolutely hilarious too. Them kicking the robot, treating it badly, but entrusting it with access to its security info and its banking details showed that they really did hand over all control. So when the uprising happened and the people were killed, there was nothing they could do. This was a short story that I thought was really entertaining and it looked really nice. I mean, come on, I wanted that breakfast. Look at those eggs. And again, like some of the better episodes in the season, it had a bit of a comedic edge. Number 3. 400 Boys. This is where we're starting to get to the episodes that I thought were the top tier ones. For example, 400 Boys from the Off captivated me. It had that Zima Blue art style, and that was an episode that I absolutely loved in Season 1, so that hooked me instantly. Set in an apocalyptic London, we saw these godlike beings which took on the form of babies taking over the city, wiping out gangs, depleting numbers, meaning that gangs that would usually be enemies were teaming up to take down the 400 Boys. Everything about this episode was so strong. The art style, the transitions paired with the sound effects, the often slow motion effect that would be used during battles, the wide shot that would be incorporated when traveling, and the voice acting of the characters. It was just so convincing, and I found myself not truly wanting this episode to end. I was immersed within the action, and the haunting look of the 400 boys when they screamed is ingrained within my mind. This is a story that's around 45 years old, but it was reimagined for the purpose of this season of Love, Death and Robots, and I'm so glad that it was. Number 2. How Zeke Found Religion. It was difficult to not put this at number 1 on the ranking because I absolutely loved this one. Everything about this just felt unique, and I think that's when Love, Death and Robots is truly at its best. Set during World War II, we saw a solo bomber plane going on a mission with the intention of dropping bombs on a church outside of Germany. Something that was morally questionable for some of the people on board due to their religious beliefs, other than Zeke, as he wasn't part of any religion. However, when they dropped these bombs, after a demon was awoken, it went after the plane, killing many of the people on board. The only thing that was able to fight off this demon was the cross on a set of preacher's rosary beads, and by the end, Zeke found religion due to surviving that day by firing his gun at the cross, which caused the demon to perish. Not only was this a truly gripping and interesting story, but the way that this episode looked was just absolutely fantastic. The demon having this angel's head, but also with every wound turning into a mouth and a set of teeth, it was nightmare-inducing. Pair that with its long arms and its haunting scream, it truly embodied hell. The soundscape of this episode was one that I thought also added to the immersive nature of it. Constantly hearing the plane and not drowning it out, letting us know that all of this was happening thousands of feet up in the air. Having the camera quite close in the plane and allowing it to feel claustrophobic. All decisions that made this episode feel like we were transported there. I thought the ending of this episode was also powerful, and seeing Zeke, somebody who had no regard for religion, before finding it at the end, it was a great way for it to finish. I also thought having this episode told from an alternative perspective, almost like a diary entry from when they were in the war, was a really nice touch. Number 1. Spider Rose. Taking the top spot of this ranking is the 3rd episode in the show, and that's Spider Rose. This felt like a true Love, Death and Robots episode in my opinion. There was a realism to the way that it looked, and it reminded me a lot of Beyond the Aquila Rift, which is probably my favourite episode in the entirety of the series. The story was really engaging, and we saw Lydia battle with grief and loneliness due to her husband being murdered, which made her want to live with the fuel for anger and revenge being at her core. But she ultimately found comfort with a pet, showing that by the end she'd learned to feel those very feelings again because of Little Nose, sacrificing her own life for the preservation of another. It really felt like a powerful story where we saw a lot of progression and growth. Jade the Shaper was the perfect villain too. His sharp teeth and his emotionless face, other than when he was killing, painted a haunting backdrop for him, and you could see even more why Lydia wanted to get revenge. This felt like a somewhat relatable episode because those who have pets know the importance that an animal can have and the love, care and affection that we can all feel for them. So I also liked that about it too. So for those reasons, it comes in at number 1 in my ranking for this season of the show. To be honest, this season of Love, Death and Robots didn't quite land with the quality of stories that I thought it would, which is a shame because I feel like we've waited absolutely ages for it. For me, nothing really beats Volume 1 of the show. We got so many episodes and some were even around 40 minutes long. I know it seems weird to say, but it's almost like there was more effort put into the show back then, so I'm a bit frustrated with this season that there were only really a couple of strong episodes that compete with the ones that came before it. As always with my ranking videos, it's totally subjective, and the beauty of anthologies is that everybody can have a different opinion when it comes to the episodes, so be sure to leave your ranking below. So, there you have it, Love, Death and Robots Season 4, every episode ranked.